I am Oliver Calmado, principal of the International Macrobiotics School. I've been teaching macrobiotics and giving health consultations for around 40 years now. And today I want to talk about snoring and sleep apnea. So, a very common problem. I thought of this because I was talking to a friend who was having real problems with her partner, waking her up frequently during the night with loud snoring, and also with sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is where a person stops breathing for, I think it's defined as for 10 seconds or more, and this can happen throughout the night. And the person with sleep apnea, as with snoring, is usually pretty unaware of what's happening. But the person sleeping next to them, it can be quite disturbing, hearing your partner stop breathing, and then there's a pause, and then they may semi-wake up and then take a deep breath and go back to normal breathing for a while. So, two very common problems. You may well be, we don't know that we've got these problems ourselves. Usually it's our partners or someone around us who tells us. So there's some understanding that I want to tell you which I think will really help. A certain amount is known by Western medicine, but there's a lot more from a macrobiotic point of view which can be helpful in really reducing or even eliminating these problems. So it's well known in Western medicine that if we talk about snoring first, the reason for snoring is that the tissues in the throat and sometimes at the back of the mouth and the tongue become too loose, and then too loose or swollen, and this then partially blocks off the air channel. And then when a person's breathing, these tissues vibrate and create a snoring noise. And in Western medicine, they recognize that this definitely happens after alcohol. It can also happen if people are taking sedatives, such as sleeping pills, which over-relax these tissues. And also people who are carrying a lot of extra weight. Also, this is more common because, again, the tissues can become more swollen, and there's less space in the air passages. Also, if people's nose is frequently or continuously blocked with mucus, and then that forces people to breathe through their mouth instead of through their nose, that can also lead to snoring. So, from a Western medical point of view, Western scientific point of view, it's known that alcohol, carrying a lot of extra weight, and sedatives and blocked nose can create this problem. So let's think about it from a macrobiotic point of view, because losing weight, not drinking alcohol, these things can often help quite a lot. But sometimes they don't, and sometimes those aren't the direct causes. Sometimes they're other causes. So if there's mucus in the nose, the modern Western diet, with a lot of processed foods and a lot of is very mucus forming. So a lot of people are creating mucus and have blocked nose, blocked sinuses. Really, any food which has a big excess in it can create mucus. Mucus happens as a reaction to an infection, or when, for example, the lungs need to clean themselves. But when there's an excessive amount of mucus long term, then this is generally because people are eating more mucus-forming foods. So various different kinds. First of all, an excess of fatty, oily foods, especially dairy foods, widely known as being mucus-forming. I find it totally bizarre that this isn't recognised in modern medicine science, because so many people repeatedly themselves, their children, have recognised this relationship that eating dairy foods can create a lot of extra mucus, which can then block up the nose and sinuses. Also, other very oily foods, a lot of deep fried foods, cakes, desserts often contain an awful lot of oil as well, although you might not realise when you're eating them because they don't taste oily. Second category are sugary foods. If we're eating foods with a lot of refined sugar in, so cakes, biscuits, chocolate, bars, soft drinks, sauces, tomato ketchups, an awful lot of different foods have refined sugar in. So the reason this and the oils are creating mucus is because the body can't use up all of those or process those foods quick enough. So they're in the bloodstream and then they start coming out somewhere. They may come out as mucus from the nose, they may come out as vaginal mucus, they may come out as creating more smelly sweat, cheesy feet, etc. It starts coming out. It starts coming out somewhere. So that's the reason why these foods in excess cause mucus. The body doesn't process them fast enough. They're in the bloodstream, and then they start finding other ways out. The third category of food that can be mucus forming are refined flour products, especially white flour products, pastries, cookies, desserts, kind of poor quality bread, etc. Because again, these break down very quickly. They're already refined, so they break down quickly. They shoot our blood sugar level up much faster. They create an excess. So that's the third category. And then, of course, if we combine 2 or 3 of those, then we get something which is very mucus forming. So let's think about some combinations. Like chocolate, actually cacao is the kind of least harmful component of chocolate, but generally there's a whack of sugar and often there's dairy. So you've got the sugar and the dairy makes it mucus forming. Cakes. I'm not a great cake eater or maker, but some years ago towards the end of my mother's life, I wanted to make her some kind of healthier cake. And even a healthy cake, I was shocked to find out, was the basic recipe for a lot of cakes is 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of oil or butter or some kind of fat, and then 1 cup of sweetener. So it's got all 3 ingredients in. It's got the refined flour, it's got the sweetener, and it's got the oil. So very mucus forming, really can create a lot of excess in the body. Macrobiotics is really about eating much more whole foods, whole grains, whole beans, whole vegetables, whole fruits, whole nuts, whole seeds, whole sea vegetables, maybe some some fish or a little animal food. This is what we've evolved to eat over thousands, if not millions of years. Whole foods basically aren't mucus forming because they break down slowly. They're slow foods. They break down slowly and there's a slow release of carbohydrates, oils, sugars, etc. Into the bloodstream and generally not mucus forming. Processed foods are very mucus forming. And by the way, also then make us more likely to pick up viral infections. Colds, flus, COVID, etc. So if blocked nose is the problem, change it to a much more whole foods diet would be great. Exercise also, a little bit more brisk, somewhat aerobic exercise is also great for the lungs to clear the mucus. So brisk walking, jogging, or playing badmintons, tennis, sports, running, any of those kind of things that are getting us breathing deeply also really help clear mucus from the body. Then on to probably the bigger cause is when these tissues become loose. So it's known that alcohol does this, but actually there's a lot of other foods and drinks that also loosen these tissues. And then there's also the third cause of carrying extra weight. Again, generally a change to a more whole foods diet, a balanced whole foods diet and exercise can help with that. But the loosening of the tissues. So in macrobiotics and in oriental medicine, we're looking at foods not only in terms of their nutrients, but also in terms of their kind of physical and energetic qualities which have an effect on our body. So a simple example is fruit is soft and watery. If we eat a lot of fruit, our body becomes in general more soft and watery and more relaxed. May also become cooler because fruit is quite cool. So fine to eat a bit of fruit for most people, especially in the summer, but in the winter we may not want to eat so much because it has that cooling quality. On the other hand, if we're eating a whole grain like some brown rice, some millet, some sourdough wholemeal bread, these are drier foods. So these cause more contraction in the body. They make our tissues a little more dry, more contracted, and in some ways stronger. So in macrobiotics we would call these yang foods, these drier, more contracted foods which make our body warmer and more contracted. And then the loosening foods, for example fruit, which we would call more yin foods because they have a more opening, relaxing and cooling effect. So alcohol is one of these yin foods that loosens these tissues and can lead to snoring. But there are a lot of other foods which also do the same. So fruit I've mentioned. Fruit has this effect. A little bit of fruit is normally fine, but drinking a lot of fruit juices, and especially eating a lot of tropical fruits, can really have a big effect on loosening these tissues. Soft drinks, especially soft drinks containing sugar, definitely. Also caffeinated drinks, drinking reasonable amounts of black tea, green tea, coffee will have this effect. Also sugary foods loosen the tissues and can create a lot of problems through the body through loosening and weakening different parts of the body. So we need to be careful, particularly with the liquids that we're drinking. And also great to avoid refined sugar for all kinds of different reasons. Spices, also a little bit expensive, not other kind of harmful effects that sugar has, but if we overdo spices, that may also loosen these tissues. Really reducing or cutting out these more yin, expansive, loosening foods would be really helpful. So what do we drink instead? Funny that in the UK and a lot of the developed world, there's only two options if you're going to have a drink somewhere. It's either tea or coffee. So instead of that, you could drink some herb teas, much milder effect, grain coffees, things like barley cup, Caro, Yano. You may drink water, hot lemon juice. There's a whole range of different things that you could drink instead that also give you a bit of a pick-me-up and feel refreshing without having to drink the caffeinated drinks. Instead of desserts, which so many desserts contain a lot of sugar, in Macrobiotics we're very good. We make some really incredible, amazing looking and great tasting desserts using no sugar at all, not using dairy at all. And just check out our website, cooking classes here, cooking classes online, if you want to learn how to make some really delicious and healthy desserts. At the same time as reducing those more yin foods, it's great to build up the yang foods that can make these tissues tighter. So these include eating whole grains, brown rice, millet, quinoa, spelt, barley, etc., buckwheat. These are small, tight grains. Their texture is firmer, they're more solid and drier, so they will have that effect on the throat. So good to be making whole grains a big part of your diet. Whole vegetables, especially root vegetables, are somewhat drier and have more contracting effect. Also soups, even though soups are liquid, soups are high in minerals, especially if we put some sea vegetables in as well, wakame, dulse, sea salad, something like that. Their soups have a lot of minerals in, which also help tissues to contract. What else? Maybe some wholemeal sourdough bread. That's drier. That will help some contraction happening. Some seeds and nuts are fine, and any other whole foods. So I've really seen this have an effect in people in really reducing their snoring. So if this is a problem, please make some changes. If it's your partner, then good luck with getting them to make some changes. Maybe if you make some changes in your food, then maybe they'll go along with making some changes too. Then I also want to talk about sleep apnea, because this problem has very similar causes. These tissues are becoming loose, so loose or swollen that they can completely shut off the air passage, and that's what causes people to stop breathing. And then the body may stop breathing for 10, 20, even 30 seconds, and then the body kind of starts because it's not getting oxygen, and the person can semi-wake up and then take a few deep breaths, and then be back in proper sleep again. So really, sleep apnea, which is becoming much more common, much more talk about it in the press and in medical circles. Really, the same causes. These tissues are becoming too swollen. If someone has a lot of extra weight, losing weight, which is not going to help their sleep apnea, it's probably going to help their heart and their liver and many other organs as well. And really reducing all of those yin foods and going on to a more whole foods diet can really help improve sleep apnea, or in time, if people really go for it, to heal that problem. So I hope this has been helpful. We have a whole range of residential courses here in our centre in Devon, southwest England, and we also have online courses on how to increase health, and also cooking classes. So if you need more help, have a look at our website and see how you can make these healthy changes. Thank you very much.